Hi, my name is Josh Arbon and I'm a PhD student at the University of Exeter in the UK. And I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about the factors that drive information transmission in our wild jackdaws. But first, they say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it most certainly takes a village to study jackdaws. So I'd like to quickly take the time to thank all of these fabulous people for all of their help on this project and many other projects of a jackdaw nature. But today, I'm here to talk to you about social learning. And social learning is the process by which individuals learn information by either interacting with other individuals, observing them, or interacting with their products. And decades of social learning research have now found that social learning is pretty much ubiquitous in the animal kingdom. And most species, including species that are asocial or lead large portions of their lives individually, are capable of social learning. But not all social learning is the same. And there are many factors that can either facilitate or inhibit transmission of information between individuals. One kind of category of these factors is demographic processes and demographic factors. So, as an example, female vervet monkeys seem to be better social learners than male vervet monkeys. And similarly, social processes can have large effects on social learning and information transmission. So in this example, perching networks were far better predictors of information transfer in starlings than foraging networks, showing that there was a fundamental difference between the two networks and that relationships in different contexts can matter in information transmission. And we wanted to look at these factors and these processes in our jackdaw study system. And we think jackdaws are a fantastic study system to study social learning. Jackdaws are really highly social corvids, so there are many other individuals from which to learn from. They are highly neophobic, which means they don't really like interacting with new things, which means social learning can be of excess value here. Yet they are actually also, somewhat paradoxically maybe, highly innovative. So once they overcome their neophobia, they can often be very good at coming up with solutions to problems. And this kind of neophobia innovation axis, if you will, has been touted often as one of the main reasons they are kind of highly prevalent in novel urban environments and are really well able to combat anthropogenic disturbances. We already know bits about jackdaw social learning from previous studies in our group. We know that they can learn good cooperative partners. They can learn about novel foods to incorporate into their diet, and they can also learn from others about which humans may be dangerous or not. But we wanted to really drill down and work out what the processes that kind of inhibit and facilitate information transfer are, and which processes drive information transmission in wild jackdaws. So to do that, we ran a series of novel food diffusion experiments. We placed these experimental arenas in raised locations in trees and barns around our study sites, and placed cameras inside them so we could film all interactions that occurred within them. Within those, we placed two sets of two novel foods alongside a known food. In this case, all the food was cheese, and the yellow cheese, the known food, we've used as rewards in experiments in the past. And then we presented two sets of novel foods. So in this example here, red and blue dyed cheese, and in a later run of the experiment, green and grey dyed cheese. And our wild population of uniquely colouring jackdaws, as you can see here, were able to freely interact with the apparatus, and we could use the cameras to record who ate what, and crucially, who witnessed who eat what. And using these observations and interactions, we could map the spread of the information through our study system. So to do this, we use network-based diffusion analysis, which can track the spread of the information through our system. And here, for instance, we have our network, and each circle represents a bird. Lines that will appear between individuals represent, in this instance, observations of green cheese being eaten, and when a circle turns green, that individual has eaten green cheese for the first time. And you can see that observations, in the most part, lead to individuals incorporating green cheese into the diet and that behaviour spreading throughout the population. So within our experiment, we had nearly 300 individuals eat 370 unique combinations of novel foods. We had over 1,000 aggressive interactions to turn into aggression scores, and all of the colours were readily learnt and consumed, so there doesn't seem to have been a systematic bias of either preference or aversion to any of the colours. So what did we find? Well, the analyses are still ongoing, but I'll fill you in as to where we've got to currently. And we found that social learning was in evidence through to specific pathways. We found good evidence that there was a colour-specific social learning, so an individual that observed blue being eaten, for example, would be more likely to go and eat blue itself. But we also found lesser but still significant evidence for other colour social learning. So an individual observing blue food being eaten was then also more likely to go and eat red cheese, showing that it might be some sort of generalisation of social learning going on here. We also found larger support from learning from adults compared to learning from juveniles, which is, again, as you might expect, as adults are likely to be better models and more knowledgeable than juveniles. Within social learning, we found that more aggressive birds were less likely to learn socially, possibly as a product of them being more aggressive and therefore having fewer opportunities to learn from others. And we found that juveniles were more likely to learn socially than adults, which again is what we might expect, as juveniles are likely to be less knowledgeable and therefore seek more opportunity to learn from others. In terms of asocial learning, we found that more aggressive birds are better and faster asocial learners than less aggressive birds, again potentially as a compensation for the fact that they have limited social opportunities. And we also found that adults were faster asocial learners than juveniles. That might be converse to what we might have thought originally, as juveniles in many species are often more innovative than adults. But this could actually be a case that adults, being more knowledgeable, they may be in a better position to take risks, and the risk in this instance of trying a new food for the first time. And this may be borne out of some more generalisation. And so, when I say generalisation, why do I bring this up? Well, we also found that birds, once they'd eaten one novel colour of food, were far more likely to asocially learn another novel colour. So a bird that had already eaten blue, either by social or asocial processes, was far more likely to go and itself try red. And this could be a generalisation of birds saying, items in this location are food, or items that are small and cubed are food. And as such, social learning of one colour and overcoming neophobia could facilitate individual learning of other options. And this is a process that could help birds solve related but still subtly different problems in their environment. And this sort of generalisation process is very understudied in the study of social learning. So in the future, we want to also take this analysis and look at whether we can find any other learning strategies as opposed to just learn from adults over juveniles, and see if individuals are biasing their learning based on either kin or affiliations. We want to look at parental effects, as we found some evidence that adults were provisioning their offspring with these novel foods, so we want to see how that could affect things. And we want to look at post-learning choice. So once an individual knows blue and red are both safe to eat, what governs whether it chooses blue or red at any time point in the future? But for now, if anyone has any questions, I would be delighted to answer them, and all that is left to say is thank you all for listening. Cheers.